Welcome to Google Sites, yet another way that Google helps us collaborate with others, get information to other people, and also to get information from others, could be students. Before I jump into how we make sites, I thought it would be valuable to spend a little time on Google's list of what a good website looks like. Now, this is a quick list, but as we go into designing your own for whatever purpose, some good things to keep in mind. So here we go. The first is you have to ask, and this is when you're writing a paper or doing anything really, you got to ask, who is my audience? So if students are going to be looking at it, is that going to affect how my site looks and acts and feels? If it's parents, is that going to change, what it looks like, etc.? Always asking, what do I think is the most important to them, and how am I going to make it easily accessible to them? You do have to take into consideration, especially if it's a parent site, will they be able to find what they need to? I guess even with students, will they be able to find what they need to? On the actual site, am I going to have directions on what they'll need to do to get around? And that goes along the same lines. All right, a little bit into design. Make sure you have a design that flatters, not distracts. So now that tools make it so easy for us to put so much onto a web page, the temptation is to just fill it with content when in fact that may just distract users from what they actually need to get to. Colors, fonts, make sure you line that up, and you can spend lots and lots of time on colors. White space, like I said, since we can put so much on, we often it's pretty simple to just overwhelm the user with content, and we don't use white space very well. And images, I'm going to really encourage you to hold back on your use of images just because they can be quickly distracting. Talk a little bit about content. Make sure your headings, the main parts of your site, are simple. We're going to talk about something called the fold, above the fold, where we want all the most important information there. So if I go to a website like brewers.com, the fold is the bottom of the page here, the bottom of my web browser. And you can see even the Brewers web page is fairly busy. But anything that's fairly important needs to be on this first page when I open up a web, this first top of the page when I open it up. And now if I scroll down, there is more stuff down here, but lots of users may not take the time to go down there. So make sure your most important stuff is right there at the top of the page. Make sure headings are obvious. The other two things to understand are we are in an age of shorter reading spans, and a web page is probably not the place to work on deep reading. Certainly we want our students to be able to read in depth, think about things in depth and critically, but a web page probably isn't the place for that. So keep your content short, to the point, and make sure they can find everything and get through a lot of it within about 15 seconds. This is one of Google's principles. As far as navigation goes, the more simplistic it can be, the better for users. My main navigation links, I should only have 5 to 7. Is if I fill up a whole navigation bar with about 30 links, it's going to lose some effectiveness. Google gives us the ability to add these breadcrumb links where it can tell you which sub-pages you've gone into, and it makes it easier for the user to get back to that. So that's something that may be useful for them. The last part is when web pages first had the ability to support images, when the internet was fast enough, people thought that was their invitation to add all kinds of animations and other things, and very quickly websites got extremely distracting. So all in all, just avoid animations altogether. The same with noises and music. You've probably gotten to a website where you didn't realize your speakers were still up and this noise just blares out of them, and sure enough, 3 scrolls down you find like there's an ad on there, or someone decided it would be useful for their song to be playing at that time. So all in all, just avoid music and noises and animation. Try to keep websites simple, not distracting, and extremely user-friendly. All right, those are the principles Next, we'll get into how we start building our website.